And now we will invite two more panelists to join us for the panel discussion and to go over the presentations given in this session. We have the presenters and the panelists joining us, and please do not apply for smooth proceedings of this event. And when you are introduced, please lightly greet the audience from your seat. We have Professor Kim Soo-hwan for Industrial Design from Dongmyeong University, President's Hall of RAMSS, Mr. Shin Hong-woo from Creative Pulse, Mr. President Yoon Jang-won of Southeast of Korea Design Industry Association, and Senior Engineer Lee Jong-jun of Accommodation Design of SHI. And online we have Mr. Park Chol-hoon, CEO of Parkwood Design. So in relation to today's topic, I would like to ask each panel to share your personal views. Who would like to go first? President Seo?
근데 디자인이란
So the topic design can be applied to many industries, and it resonates with many people involved in different industries. And in the field of shipbuilding, there is growing interest in design, with more people enjoying leisure. And domestically, I didn't think that we have many opportunities to have related discussions. And it's a great pleasure that we have such an opportunity today with all the experts from the industry. We talked about how design can develop the marine industry, and how this can be further related to the development of the leisure industry. So at my institute, RIMS, I will make sure that this can relate to our further efforts. Professor Kim, please.
Well, although I attend many forums, they are mostly geared towards tourism or fisheries, and not so much on design. But I think this is a wonderful opportunity to discuss a rather specialized area and to together forge our joint efforts for the development of ship design. And today, in terms of ships, from passenger ships to fishing vessels to super yachts, we were able to cover different genres of ocean design. We acquired new information, and I myself, for ocean ship talent development, found this session to be very helpful and insightful. Thank you. Next, Mr. Shin. In a very realistic ocean design, I am mostly doing my work, and listening to the presentations, I felt that ocean design is a wide area, and other than what I do, there is much more work to be done. And for overseas examples with good videos and technical elements that was presented today, gave me an idea of what kind of direction Korea should take to raise the overall quality, to catch up with the high quality design that is done overseas. Thank you.
We have senior engineer Lee Jong-jin listening to the presentations. What were your thoughts?
반갑습니다.
Good afternoon. I work in the shipbuilding industry. And it's not always promising for the shipbuilding industry. I do have lots of concerns. And at this World Ocean Forum, listening to many other presentations, well, actually, many of my concerns are gone, and I saw some light of hope. I'd like to thank all the people who prepared this opportunity. Mr. Yoon, please. Chair Yoon, please.
네, 반갑습니다.
Good afternoon. From the industry, academia, and business companies, we have representatives gathered here for the marine design session, which is quite significant. I think that ocean design is more about ships and yachts. So today, I would like to ask the professors and experts to expand the scope of ocean design to include tourism and leisure as well. So I look forward to some good discussion so that we can all contribute to ocean design development. Thank you. Thank you very much. So if I may add to that, two scholars meeting in person and discussed what would be right to have a higher sophistication or deeper sophistication. And a scholar passing by said that a sophistication is wide, not high or deep. So we need that level of sophistication, and the word sophistication can lead to a number of different interpretations. There is no one definition, but one wise scholar said that the sophistication of looking at arts and history must be high or deep, but that towards politics must be wide, and that towards future should be far-sighted. So from this angle, I'd like to ask the panelists, rather than using a list of preliminary questions, I wanted to ask you, based on your presentations today, the need for change and the urgency for change was a constant topic that came up. So the word change, G, if you change the letter G to C, then the word becomes chance. So in Busan and in Korea, in designing medium-sized ships, undergoing change and grasping the chance during the change is very much needed. So just naturally, where do we need to change to find the right opportunity? And in relation to that, if you have any comments or questions from the floor, then we will take them. So this is how I would like to proceed. And we will go in the reverse order of the comments earlier, starting with President Yoon Jang-won of Southeast of Korea Design Industry Association. Where do we need to change, and what kind of opportunities would that lead to? Your insights, please.
지금 우리
Well, we have CEO Park Chul-hoon from Parkwood. He's joining us online. So why don't you give some chance to him to speak? Well, do you hear us? Yes, I'm Park Chul-hoon from Parkwood. Do you hear me? Yes. Do you hear me? So do you have any remarks? Well, I spend most of the time in overseas markets, so I do not really have close knowledge of the Korean industry particularly. And as I live far away when it comes to commercial ships, well, I thought that I could learn more about the Korean situation, and that was what I did today. And I saw how you in this room are leading the change. Thank you for your thoughts. And President Yoon, please continue. Like the session chair, well, I don't have to be articulate, right? So listening to the presentation, I have a question for President Seo of the Research Institute of Medium and Small Shipbuilding. 10 years ago, well, there is the R&D section.
지금 10년째
10 years ago, I was wondering that if design companies in doing R&D, well, we spent a decade working in this R&D for shipbuilding design. But my understanding is that it didn't really translate into many products in the market. Many design companies, through R&D efforts, added value, and I believe that it was a great opportunity to share our know-how regarding shipbuilding design. But when it comes to the designing companies themselves, and for marine design, what are the things that they need to prepare for? What do they have to learn from your perspective, President Seo? Thank you for the question. Well, actually, we have a professor on the stage, so maybe he might be a better person to address the question. But anyway, you directed the question to me, so let me try. On the basis of my experience working for a big company, when there is an order placed by a ship owner, we have to meet the requirements of the owner, and there are design elements that we need to meet, and these are based on engineering technology. For example, even if it's a concept design, regarding the requirements of the owner, we have meetings to communicate these elements, and we have basic and detailed design based on this communication. And in my presentation, I mentioned how naval architects led the process and played a major role. So let's say that there's a designer and he is working on the ship design. Then he has to have basic understanding of dynamics and engineering. Amongst the panelists, we have one professor, and the rest of the panelists and presenters, well, we have a senior engineer of a big company, and I believe that he has long years of experience in this field. But for him to do his job, he needs to have basic understanding of engineering. For industrial design, even though we did see lots of development in the field, the reason why we are rather stuck is these engineering designers may not be equipped with all the necessary capabilities for designing super yachts. For our ships to create greater values and to see bigger growth, and in order for it to play a bigger role in the field of culture, the experts and talents involved in aesthetics, can collaborate with naval architects to come up with better programs. By working together, we can qualify the requirements of ship owners, and we would like to see more of these opportunities. Yes, it was about developing talents as well. Professor Kim.
To develop a pool of talents for ship and ocean design, what are some of the points for change and opportunity? Yes. Well, ship design is a broad area. Within the School of Industrial Design, we have decided to develop talents for ship design because ship, in a way, interior design, product design, involves all of these different elements of design. So we cannot approach ship design from just one of those elements. In ships, there are furnitures that go onto the ships, so we need to design furniture as well. We cannot simply purchase already made furnitures and put them in the ship. We need to design the furnitures to fit the ships. Not only furniture pieces, but lamps that are installed on the ceiling as well. We have a crystal chandelier in this room as well. But for them to be installed in a ship, for rolling and pitching, we need to install a pipe right through the center, and we need to adopt new design elements. It could involve product design, interior design, and more. So to design a ship, we need to also consider the noise, vibration, and strict regulations from multiple angles. And I wanted to also say that after so much research being done, if there's no demand to be found in Korea, then these students cannot really find jobs. So for the students to actually find a job and career in ocean or in ship design, I offer a career path to the students. But what's most important is for small, medium, and large shipbuilding and shipyards to make a bold decision, because compared to 10, 20 years ago, the volume and demand for ships has clearly increased. So based on that, you need to make an investment decision to open up new markets to accommodate these new talents that are being cultivated. President saw, in order to increase demand, I think that your research institute needs a role to play to accommodate these high quality talents. How can you create the demand?
Well, the Research Institute is responsible for R&D. So regarding the industrial aspect, we don't really have an answer to this question. So I'd like to ask for your understanding. But in order to promote this industry, I think it's important to create an environment where people can come together. Industrial development, that I feel, is many people might think that development is about automation, advanced levels of automation, machines working with no people. So you might think that. But ultimately, if there are no human beings working for that industry, well, I think this is not quite what we are hoping to see. We're talking about an environment that enables people to do something, whether it be work or chance, whether it be creating a chance. So basically, it's about attracting people to come together, and we have to have a purpose. But the maturity of the industry hasn't reached that level yet. In that regard, I believe the government can provide some support with policies and back us up with policies. So in terms of projects and policies that we pursue, we try to communicate with the government. And by having opportunities like this particular forum, I believe that more people can understand what policies we need to create such an environment. And for businesses as well, by understanding that this is the industry that creates values, businesses can have more activities and can have more chances to work with R&D organizations. If we can create such an opportunity to pursue that, I believe that will be another chance for us. Well, we didn't coordinate any questions, so this was not pre-planned, but you gave such a great answer to my question. And CEO Shin, please.
I know you are working hard in your field, and you have a significant role that you're playing in industrial design and ship design. Continuing on with your wonderful comment before, what kind of change is needed and where can we find the opportunity? Today, in relation to design, well, I think that's the full focus of this session. So speaking from that aspect, there are areas where designers are good at and where engineers are good at and where producers are good at. And these areas are divided. In the design area, I feel that less and less focus and energy is being put in, because I think the perspective of designers are becoming narrow and narrow. The first thing to consider in design is what exactly is the scope of design. I know that design is a wide area, but basically, whether it's product design or ocean design, design ultimately leads to a product. And so an engineering basis must be there very solidly. If you only think of styling or shaping, then when the organization grows or develops further, design cannot catch up and support that. So design education also needs to put 70% to design and 30% to engineering, so that engineering basis can be fully accommodated in the education for design, so that shipbuilding and ship design capabilities could develop further. Thank you.
참여하고 계시는 박
From Monaco, CEO Park is joining us. And regarding the chances and change that we have to pursue, what are your take on that? Well, we need to have some demonstrated ships that can show some criteria or standards for the domestic vessels. And I also had a company in Korea and worked with companies, and they were reluctant to change drawings, and they were reluctant to change the design, even if it's just a slight change. But what we want to achieve is to move the minds and capture the minds of passengers. But currently, we don't have the demonstration that can actually show that it works. So we hope that we can have more demonstrations to produce results. Thank you.
Mr. Lee, in the yacht or boat market, I think the Korean situation must be quite different. Could you speak to that and how to improve the yacht or boat industry in Korea? If you look at the video clips or films from overseas, and also in the super yacht video shown by Mr. Park, if you go to a port city, the scenery that comes to your site, it is filled with very expensive yachts, but not so much in Korea, unfortunately. Of course, COVID-19 is a factor, but the general public or citizens in Korea, in pursuing their leisure, they are quite biased. For example, they mainly watch Netflix or Korean drama is world number one, which is nice. But on the other hand, it also reflects, I think, a heavy bias in how people spend their free time. So the people of Korea, I think, need to change their perception of culture. And over the weekend, they watch popular films 2-3 times, which is nice, but it could be nice to widen the idea of how you spend your free time. Thank you. President Yoon, do you have any questions?
바꿔도 박 대표님한테
I have a question for Mr. Park from Parkwood. Well, regarding ship design and marine design, for this person to serve as a designer, how much time does it take to nurture this talent? I believe from the case of foreign markets, in Coventry, they have a department for yacht design. So after they finish their bachelor's courses after 4 years, they can be put into the industry right away. So the theory itself through the 4-year course is not sufficient. And right after they finish their courses, they can jump into the market right away, accumulating their experiences starting from junior and senior designers. Thank you. So the suggestion or recommendation I'd like to make is at the Research Institute of Medium and Small Shipbuilding. Well, you're saying that the demand is not big enough, but in order to build a business model, we need infrastructure, we need people, we need to have the demand. But we're saying that the demand is small and there's not much of an interest, not much of an infrastructure. Then in this case, just like Professor Kim said, in cultivating talents, the design courses can be developed in the academia and also in the industries. For instance, there are many projects, including the security project or patrol ships. And they don't always require high-end technology. And in this case, maybe we can create demand in this field so that many people can have more experience in the field and they can learn much faster. We don't have to have all the separate parts of teaching people and putting them into practice. But instead, we can create these opportunities where they can be utilized in practice. And in industrial design, this can be also considered. So maybe that's a good way of creating demand.
네, 감사합니다.
Thank you. We do not have much time left, so now I would like to open up the floor to take any questions or comments for the panelists or the presenters today.
안녕하십니까.
Hello, I am from Korea Register. I am Iho. I am an economist by training, so I'm not familiar with technology, but I do know the trend. 5 years ago, I have started to see a lot of articles on future type of ships. In 2014, Barbara was designed. It was called a Platon. And because of the oil shock and ship fuel costs going up, that ship came out to reduce the fuel costs. And with the oil shock disappearing, the ship also disappeared. But now it is resurfacing. Elon Musk also added, or Maersk added an rotor sail onto that ship. On some other companies added wind sailing system to reduce the CO2 emissions. But setting that aside, fuel cell battery attached ships are under intense research, and the ultimate goal is for those ships to be ocean going. But for ocean going ships, the fuel cell battery, when do you think fuel cells and batteries can be attached to ocean going ships? And secondly, if that happens, 10,000, 20,000 TEU grade ships with those fuel cells and batteries, do you think they are economically viable? Because otherwise they will be meaningless. For autonomous ships, unmanned ships, they are great, but it takes 9, 10 times more cost to build them than general ships. So they need to be economically viable. So those two questions, please.
질문하신 내용을 제가 이해하.
So I understand that the question regarding the recent eco-friendly ship development in Korea, I think that was one of your questions. And secondly, well, regarding the fuel cells, with the present state of technology, running ocean-going ships with that propulsion system of fuel cells, that is not a possibility as of now. I'm sure you know this. So for coastal ships or near-shore ships, attaching fuel cells there is the main attempt made by the government. And there, once a project actually happens, and well, we have done projects on that, and we have ships with fuel cells. But to operate an ocean-going ship, the output power has to be very high, which involves not only shipbuilding but technological development in other areas. Because otherwise we cannot make that a reality. So for hydrogen or fuel cell system to be attached to an ocean-going ship, there are attempts being made, and at the national level, those projects in the mid to long term will need to be planned out. To my understanding, before around 2030, that type of system will actually be attached to an ocean-going ships, producing significant results, according to R&D experts and the industry experts in general. And what was the other question? Autonomous ships. Yes, regarding economic viability, well, to an extent, it is being said that to an extent, those types of ships can be commercially viable. We often hear about Norway's Yaru project. Of course, building the ship involves 2-3 times higher cost, but in the process of operation, it is more than offset by saving the cost. So, and also recently there's been a competition over developing autonomous ships. There is much R&D happening in that area and at the national level and by large carriers. In terms of operational efficiency, they find autonomous ships to be very beneficial, according to many different reports. So I think fierce competition in the industry will lead to better economics and less cost. And another challenge is the infrastructure and legislative or regulatory issues. This also because in the industry seems quite mature enough to address them. So soon we will find a solution. And I think in Korea, Korea Register will be the leading entity in this process. And we look forward to your efforts.
감사합니다.
Thank you very much for the answer. Maybe we have time for one more question from the floor. Do we have a question? None, it seems. Well, we're talking about convergence of everything. So carbon and fiber, virtual meets reality, and that's the VR, and sensors on the clothes. These are wearable devices. We're seeing all kinds of converged technologies. And we are meeting in this port city of Busan, Korea. And given the characteristics of this city, we believe that in the field of marine design, maybe we can do much better. So that was a good opportunity for self-reflection. Looking at different presentations, it was a good opportunity to think about marine design. And it's not just the Ministry of Trade and Industry, but it can be other related parties and organizations who can play a role. So, well, first let me wrap up before we take the final question. Or if we have a foreign audience, do we have translation? Yes, it seems like we have a question from the floor, maybe in English.
네. 지금 플로어에 질문자는 어디 계신가요?
Where is the person sitting from the audience? Well, who is going to ask a question?
네, 질문하시죠.
Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity. I'm Sariana. I'm naval architecture student from Indonesia and student HM from KMOU. I'm interested in small ship, especially high-speed craft, and I have made a scientific paper for the final assessment, and several scientific papers that I have read mentioned that in ship design and hydrodynamic prediction, there is a numerical calculation correction of up to 30% in the prediction of the ship resistance. So this is definitely had an impact on the accuracy of the design, and realization in this field. So my question is, how can this be minimized to increase the accuracy of the ship design? Thank you.
어떻게 어느 패널 분이 한번
So who is going to address the question? Well, this is a student from Indonesia. Maybe I can share my experience with you. The size of a vessel is important, and this is being translated, right? So I think it's important. The size matters. And when it comes to the area of design, well, we have to think about creativity. And it's about positioning design. So when we say there is a whole new concept of design, first we have to go through interpretation in trying to increase efficiency of a vessel. And there are many events that can actually contribute to increased efficiency. When there is a new hull design, well, with the Research Institute, we do the interpretation of fluid dynamics. And for a big project, for instance, we have 3 tests for fluid dynamics. So when there's a new design, we have these 3 stages of interpretation of fluid dynamics so that we understand better ship resistance. And we also look at cases of foreign companies, and we also want to make sure that the case we're developing is original and creative enough. Thank you.
저에게 허락된 시간
We have used up all the time given to us, and a bit more actually. So ocean design, ship design. For them to be converged, design companies in the shipping industry should be able to expand their business through marine policy development, and I hope that this session provided an opportunity toward that end. I would like to thank all participants in the floor and joining me on stage, and everyone at the Korea Marine Industry Association for putting this event together. And I would also like to thank everyone at the Design Council Busan. Thank you for joining us and asking questions and answering the questions. I hope to see you again next year. Thank you.
패널 토론을
I would like